There is no greater economic lie than the idea that wealth is found in the ground. If natural resources determine prosperity, then Haiti would be richer than Hong Kong and the Congo would be a superpower. But the evidence says otherwise. Switzerland has no oil, no gold, no diamonds, and yet it's one of the most advanced economies on earth. Meanwhile, Venezuela, sitting on the world's largest proven oil reserves, has become a nation where people eat from garbage trucks. How is that possible? Because what determines prosperity is not what lies beneath your feet, but what lies between your ears. Culture, not oil, not aid, not geography, is what separates nations that flourish from nations that fail. As I've said before, if we learn anything from the history of economic development, it is that culture makes almost all the difference. And yet this is precisely the factor we're told to ignore. We're told poverty is caused by colonialism. That inequality is the legacy of slavery. That prosperity depends on redistribution or reparations or the latest initiative from the World Bank. But if these ideas had any merit, their results would speak for themselves. And they don't. Massive deposits of iron or gold and completely devastated by World War II, two of its cities flattened by atomic bombs. Yet by the 1980s, Japan had the second largest economy in the world. Was this a result of foreign aid? No. It was a result of cultural factors, a relentless work ethic, a national commitment to education, and an emphasis on social cohesion, discipline, and self-restraint. These are not natural resources. These are cultural resources. Now contrast that with Nigeria, one of the richest oil producers on the planet. And yet, year after year, Nigeria ranks among the lowest in the world in infrastructure, literacy, life expectancy, and corruption perception. This is not about race. It is not about imperialism. It is not about international institutions holding Nigeria back. It is about culture.
One of the things that black people have not been able to understand is the fact that they have failed to sit down and define their destiny by studying what makes economy to thrive or what makes a nation thrive. And because of that reason, you go across the continent of Africa, all you find is that people are lamenting, crying, screaming, pointing accusing fingers to one another for the reason why their nation and their continent is not developing. What I'm saying in effect is this: Africa can never be developed by aid. Africa can never be developed by reparation. If you take time and look at the history of nations that have developed, you find out that they have something in common, and that is their culture. And if you listen closely to Professor Sowe, he categorically said that what makes a nation thrive or economy of a nation to thrive is their culture. We have been sold to the mentality that the only problem we have in our countries and continent is simply that of the government or that of the imperialism or neo-colonialism or colonialism or whatever you can call it. But the real truth is the fact that our culture is simply the stuff that is dragging us backward. What is your culture? Culture is a way of life, the way of people. Everything you do in your country is your culture, your religion, your dress code, your education, your parenting. Everything you do is wielded inside your culture, and that can only lift you up or keep you down. For instance, Professor Sonway talked about Nigeria being one of the countries in this world that every year consistently go down. Yet Nigeria is producing massively a lot of oils. He said, if actually you believe that it is the production of resources or owing resources is the reason why nations thrive, Nigeria should be the part of the nations that thrive. For instance, he said that Congo should be a superpower because we know for a fact that Congo have the highest level of natural resources you can find anywhere in the world. Yet my people in Congo are starving and crying and pointing and accusing fingers to one another and colonialism and imperialism for the reason why they are backward. My people of Congo have failed the test of sitting back to ask themselves, what is the culture we are practicing? Our culture is dragging us backward. Now let's do a critical check here. In the 70s, Nigeria, as we know it as a nation, was thriving. I wasn't there, but the little stuff that I read in history told me that Nigeria was a little bit thriving because 1 naira was a dollar to 50 cents, $1.50. In other words, Nigeria economy was somehow a little bit booming more than the United States of America's economy. Because Nigerian culture then inspired them to create things. How many people were in school in the 1970s in Nigeria? It wasn't a large number of them. How many Nigerians today are graduates? Colossal number of them, millions of them. Yet instead of Nigeria growing up, Nigeria is going down. In other words, the education system does not correlate the fact that we are developing. It seems that the more we are going into academics and gathering certificates, the less we are productive. We don't think about that because, our education system does not allow for industrialization. We are sold to the idea of testing and grading, A, B, C, D. How many A did you make this semester? How many A did you make the other semester? Nothing is wrong with that. If you take a look at the connections that were done in the life of Booker T. Washington, when he died, he spoke about the Black Americans and the Northern people, the Southern Americans and the Northern white people. You see, one of the things that the Black Americans lost when their slave masters let them go was the fact that they could not continue with the skills that they had that made them to thrive in the hand of their masters. They were doing mastering, tailoring, they were doing weathering, they were doing all kind of industrial works that helps nations and help a society and community to grow. The moment they were let free, they stopped that. They went ahead to start studying Greeks, study linguistics, study laws. Then Booker T. Washington made it very clear. He said the problem is not necessarily that he is attacking the education system, but the fact that we have for only forget that which made us important in the life of our masters those days. They should have been able to go to school, not to leave that works they were doing, but to scale it, to scale themselves in the same line so that they can efficiently be productive and creative in the same line of work. Now, if you're a mason and you go and study building engineering in school, that gives you power to do things great, right? If you are a carpenter and you go study in school, it gives you the ability, because what testing and grading and reading does for you is to help you to articulate things faster, to devise a strategy, to accomplish your work easier. That's the essence of education. Education is not the ability to speak white man's English. If you speak English and you can't build, you are dumb. If you can speak French, you can't build, you are dumb. What builds a nation is hands. We failed the test of industrial education. And that's what we should look back on right now in Africa. While we are trying to organize our system, our parenting, we should also look at our education system. Without industrial education, we can't grow. That's why Booker T. Washington went ahead to found a school, Tuskegee Institute, which was helping people to develop in different industrial education that will help them to actually develop their society. And he made something very clear. He said, when some of their black brothers and sisters gain a few penny here and there, they run out from the southern eastern part of their country. They leave the community that were dominant of black people, they go to the communities that were white people. So they were running away, they were not interested in developing the nation. Now I say that whatever situation you find a black man here in Africa, you find the same situation in everywhere you find a black man. The same thing is playing out anywhere you find them in Africa here in Nigeria. We have 10,000 Nigerian medical doctors, the best brains amongst us, practicing in the United Kingdom. You go to Ghana, the best brains right there practicing in New York. So how do you build an economy when the best of the best amongst you are building another people's economy? Now you blame the government. I tell people categorically, no man can perform beyond his level of knowing. If you see anybody doing anything, that is level of knowing. You see the people in power, you feel angry. You say, why are they doing it? That's what they know. If you think you know any better, find your way through to that position and change the whole constitution. You see, what builds a society is what I call inclusive institution. And because we failed that test, we are dividing ourselves. You want to know why that happens? Go back to our individual homes. You find out that brother and sister can't work together. Everybody's on his own. I want to build. I want to be the richest person in this family. Mentality. They cannot come together to form an institution, culture that will enable them to grow. Go to the Jewish community in America. That is one of the most powerful tools they have used to conquer the world. Every Jewish man, they are all interlocked this way. Very strong. Because they know what they want. So when you are lagging behind, those around you will help you to rise. In Africa, when you are lagging behind, they will even use boots to match you down to remain there. You can't build. Because your mentality is a mentality that does not allow for industrialization and civilization. It's a mentality that fuels barbaric mentality or barbarism. So I want to be the only person like this. I was discussing with one of my lecturers back in those days in University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, a couple of days ago when I visited the school. And he's told me how his professors didn't allow him to finish his PhD because he was able to finish his own PhD 3 years. But he said that those professors finished theirs in 10 years. So they wouldn't allow him to pass. They keep keeping him down for him to go through that process of 10 years before they will give him his own PhD. That's the mentality. That's extractive institution. Extractive institution is wielded deeply in our culture. It's not only the government. So let me ask you, what does Mr. President seated in Aso Rock in Abuja has to do with the professor who are refusing that the other young man will not become a professor? What has it? They don't have no relation. It is their own initiative to do that. Even if you leave that place and go to a place where you have a manager and you have other workers, the manager will never allow any other person to rise. He will keep being there until he turns himself to a shrine. It's here. But in a successful society, what is being done is people rise and they make environment conducive for other people to rise. So when they see that other people are rising and they are more intelligent, more creative, more skilled than them, they shift out of the way, they make them the manager. Here they will still remain there until they turn themselves to shrine. Even if they don't know what they are doing, they'll still be there. Mentality. Extractive institution. Never allow anybody to grow. So the problem of Nigeria, as the problem of the entire continent of Africa, and the entire problem of the black man anywhere you find them in the world, is the mentality that they have not been able to come together to ask themselves, what type of culture are we practicing? We are consistently waiting for a white man to give us handouts so that we can succeed. Now, let me give you an example. For the last 30 years, black people in Africa have received aid worth $1.3 trillion. Now, let me make it very clear furthermore. When you take that money and you use it judiciously in an economy, you should be able to produce at least 4 to 5 countries that could be tagged first world country. In other words, the 55 countries in Africa, we should have at least 5 countries that we can be tagged. This is a first world country. That when you look at the per capita GDP of an individual in that country, it can equally match that of somebody in America, match somebody in Germany, match someone in Japan, match that of someone in China. But you can't find it. It's a simple mentality because every one of us have been taught the wrong ideas on how to develop the society through our culture. We are busy disintegrating ourselves. When are you going to learn your lesson, black people? I'm asking you, do you want God or Jesus to come back here before you learn your lesson? None of those people are coming. You must learn your lesson by yourself. And if you have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, you haven't learned the lesson of history that what builds men is not complaint, but being productive and working consistently with what is needed in your time, you can never succeed. But look at the world right now. We are consistently moving away from the analog world as we know it. Now we are moving to the digital space. How many countries in Africa are heavily investing in AI and robotics? Very few of them. So how are you going to compete in the future? You can't compete because when the right things are being done, you are sleeping. With all the resources you have, you should be the first world countries everywhere. Congo should be America in Africa. So why is Congo not America? I used to give them the benefit of the doubt, the fact that because they just got independent in the 1960s, that's not the reason. Singapore built 1965. That's when again their independence, 1965. When did the Japans started building? The Japanese in the 70s. That's when they started. Where were you in the 70s? You took off and you destroyed yourself. Now you go around, white man, brown man, colonialism, neo-colonialism, this, that, this, that. You see, I'm born to defend this mentality and make sure it ends with me. Anybody coming behind me will not have this kind of mentality. It won't work. Anytime you hear an average black person try to diagnose the situation and the issue in the country, it still points to what? To the Western Europeans or to the government. He never comes down to the fact that the biggest issue we have is in our parenting and our education system. Those are the two places. I've said it time and time again that if you can be able to raise this kid in ethical conduct, train them in the right direction, when they grow, you don't need to punish the men. The reason why you are punishing the men and you are complaining here and there that they're being looting money, they are looting money left and right in the government sphere is simply because they were not trained to be men of ethical conduct. Pythagoras made it clear. He said, educate the children and it will not be necessary to punish the men. The reason why you punish men is because they are not trained. The same thing that the Bible said in Proverbs 32 verse 6. He said, raise up these children the way they should grow, and when they grow, they will never depart from it. The reason why we depart and do things evil in the society that drag us backward is because we are raised to think in that way. Like I tell people, I am not a talking drum. I am a talking, walking drum. WORKING. I'm yet to see any black person at my age that have gathered more skills, real-time skills more than I do. I did not just read. So don't think that I'm saying this is just in my head. None. You may say, okay, you are more skilled, like you have more expert in one of them. Go ahead right now and share this video. I remain Captain Africa. Ad Astra.